Coming up on Now See This.
Yeah.
If this paraglider thought hanging in power lines was scary, his rescue will blow you away. When a cat sticks its head where it doesn't belong, getting it free may require all 9 lives. And when kids get up to their neck in icy water, the rescuers could be in over their heads. There's illegal shopping, cars that aren't stopping, and high-speed hopping. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. They've been called the pearls of the sky, and they mark mankind's first foray into flight. But even though hot air balloons appear to move effortlessly through the air, they're at the mercy of Mother Nature's unpredictable and sometimes deadly whims. One experienced balloon pilot is about to learn how vulnerable these floating wonders can be.
I was participating in the Saga International Balloon Fiesta, which takes place in Kyushu, one of the southern islands of Japan. With me in the balloon was my official observer. He was from the Japanese Defense Force, and he'd never flown in a balloon before.
On the last day of the festival, Perry and his passenger, Masayuki Yamashita, participate in a balloon competition called the Gordon Bennett Memorial. Contestants must fly low over a field, take aim, and throw a marker at a target on the ground. But just as Perry drops his marker, a downward jolt of turbulence throws the balloon into a terrifying sequence of events.
On impacting the ground, one of the gas pipes attached to one of the bottles broke and caused an uncontained release of propane. There was a monstrous explosion, and all around me was flame and inferno.
As the raging flames sear his face, Perry makes a desperate lunge to pull his passenger from the basket.
So I got out, and as I did so, I hung on to the observer so that I made sure he came out with me, because there wasn't really time to tell him that we were leaving the basket.
They roll free seconds before the balloon races skyward. Perry and Yamashita soon realize the horrifying choice they'd have had to make had they gotten stuck in the basket. Either perish in the flames or risk leaping to their deaths. But Perry's concern is no longer about himself.
I was really, really, really worried that it would explode over the crowd. I knew it was only a matter of time before it would explode.
The searing heat burns through the propane tanks. The horrific explosion engulfs the balloon whole, leaving almost nothing but ash. Fortunately, the cinders rain onto an empty field. For Perry, this incident marks his first serious ballooning accident and his closest brush with death. But it's not his own safety that makes him happiest. It's everyone else's.
But I'm pleased to say that nobody hurt. My only injuries were some very minor burns down the side of my face, which 10 days later had gone. So very lucky on the injury front.
In the hills of New Zealand, power line workers have found something stuck in their high voltage power lines. It's a paraglider named Ono Bertsma. And in the same way that the beautiful landscape collides with technology, so did he. On the ground, paramedic Evan Roper recognizes the gravity of the situation.
Change my position, but I know the power lines are off.
Yeah.
Are they already off?
I can't tell you that, so let's assume not until we know.
Because the power poles are inside a narrow ravine, getting a rescue truck to the location is impossible.
It'd be quite possible to get a chopper in there.
Yes.
The airborne rescue team arrives, and St. John's paramedic Chris McKay prepares to rappel from the helicopter and secure Bertsma to the line. But when the helicopter moves into position, the downdraft sends Bertsma into a whirling tangle that threatens to tear the chute loose. Or worse, blow him into another live wire. Bertsma frantically screams, trying to wave the helicopter off. They back away. They'll have to find another approach. Rescuers devise a plan, but it's risky. Bertsma will have to re-secure himself to the line using metal buckles from his harness called carabiners. He must also cut himself free from his billowy chute, which has been his only lifeline.
Yeah? The 2 carabiners on your harness.
Yes.
Attach those to the big wire.
Yeah, one is here.
But Bertsma misunderstands and attaches the wrong piece to the wire before cutting himself free.
Pull yourself
Suddenly,
down to the
he's
power.
hanging by nothing but a tiny piece of bungee cable.
That might break.
It's just here.
Don't move. You don't have your carabiners through that wire. Just, stay there. The helicopter will come up and pick you up, all right?
Go in and get him.
Yeah, just get him.
Bertsma's life is now literally hanging by a thread. Again, the helicopter is dispatched, and again McKay prepares for the rescue, unsure how to deal with the rotor wash from the chopper. Then, they get an idea. McKay drops a line to the ground crew who pulls him out from under the gusty downdraft. It's a delicate mid-air operation trying to hook up to Bertsma. And by now, the paraglider is using his last ounce of strength to hold onto the wire. Before Bertsma has the chance to slip away, McKay latches onto him. The ground crew guides McKay and Bertsma to the ravine floor. The happy but exhausted paraglider puts on a calm face. But he wasn't always so composed.
I was going down, straight down. It was unbelievable. Yeah, you're hanging in your ropes and hanging. Everything is mixed up. You don't know exactly what's happening under you.
Bertsma's paragliding adventure will have a happy ending after all. And he knows he has a talented and quick-thinking crew to thank for that. What started as a dare among girls is about to put 20 grown men to the test. 5 kids who ventured onto the ice fell into the freezing waters of New York's Baisley Pond. But emergency officer William Fisher knows that rescue comes before reproach.
I have 2 sons at home, and one was their age, and I'm thinking, God, if that was my kid out here, you have to give it your all, you have to give it your best.
Fisher is desperate to save the girls now, but those fatherly instincts are about to backfire. At the edge of the hole, he offers a hand to 2 kids at once, and the ice can't support them all. Backup crews on shore suddenly realize that now even the rescuers need rescuing. They scurry out with ropes and ladders to pull the group free. Then, disaster. Within seconds, 6 more men are clawing at the ice, trying to climb out of the frigid pond. At the back, Fisher has been unable to pull 2 of the girls into the boat. Their sopping clothes have weighed them down too much, and he knows they're not just fighting the cold, they're fighting the clock. After only 15 minutes in the freezing water, the children's body temperatures have already plunged to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. And the hypothermic shock has sapped them completely.
There's a greater sense of urgency rescuing a child because they don't have the strength. And you're talking about 11 to 14-year-old just trying to keep themselves up. There's no way that they would have been able to climb in the boat.
Fisher and his teammates can only hold the girls against the side of the raft while the team slowly wrestles their way toward dry land. Reinforcements come in with more ladders and rope, and the ice finally starts to hold. But even with a solid layer beneath them, the weight of the boat on the ice allows seepage of the freezing water. The girls continue to get dragged through the chilly liquid. Rescuers pull as fast as they can.
The main thing that we were all thinking about was, here's 5 kids hang on for their lives, literally. It was up to us to make sure that they all made it, and how hard it would be to even save 4 of the 5 and lose one. It'd be horrible. I couldn't even imagine that.
As one of the girls tries to stand, her frozen legs give way. Rescuers rush the kids to waiting ambulances, which take them to the hospital. But Officer Fisher will soon get some great news. The day of the rescue, his crew had only been a few blocks from the pond when the call first came in, and it turns out that may have made all the difference.
We found out later on from the doctors at the hospital they were about a minute or 2 away from all of them just succumbing to hypothermia and drowning. We were so happy that we were able to get all 5 of these kids. You know, you wonder if sometimes you have a little help from somewhere else.
Officer William Fisher feels satisfaction when he looks back on that successful day as a rescuer. But his real joy comes from looking back on it as a parent.
Just to know that these kids are walking around today and they're going to school, that's great.
The man in this Chevy SUV has just crossed a terrible line. When this chase began, he was only wanted for a string of property thefts in Miami, Florida. He's now wanted for attempted murder on a cop. Just moments ago, he fired at least 2 shots from his vehicle at Miami-Dade police officers. He narrowly missed killing one of them. Pursuing officers are enraged. Up ahead, 2 units wait at an intersection to cut him off. But he just barrels between them. Moments later, he swerves onto a residential sidewalk to avoid another roadblock. By now, it's clear that this would-be cop killer also won't hesitate to hurt an innocent civilian. Out on the main road, he's about to get his chance.
And the next thing I know, this truck is cutting across in front of me, and I hit him. And, he didn't stop, he just kept on going.
The attempted murderer continues off-road, his SUV easily handling the rugged terrain. Once he finds a paved surface, he quickly floors it. He flies through this quiet neighborhood at top speeds, running stop sign after stop sign. But pursuing officers are closing in. When he makes a U-turn at the next intersection, he'll find a police cruiser heading straight for him. What he does is incredible. At 20+ miles an hour, he leaps from his vehicle and runs into a front yard. As his SUV continues to roll, he quickly scales anything in his way. Right behind him is an officer who knows full well how dangerous this man is. But he's determined to bring him down. He leaps, getting his man, and letting his bottled-up rage get the best of him. When the suspect decides to play dumb, the cop decides to play rough, collaring him and then punching him several times. While the officer's superiors are relieved to get this wannabe cop killer off the street, they won't tolerate excessive force of any kind.
At the beginning of this incident, the subject had a gun, was waving it at the officers. We have to assume he was armed until he was taken into custody. Now, if we determined there was any illegal or inappropriate uses of force, then we'll deal with that and we'll discipline our officers.
It's been shown that an officer produces as much adrenaline in a police chase as a soldier in combat. When this suspect shot at the cops, he crossed a line and provoked one officer to cross another kind of line. The kind that can get very hard to see when you're in the heat of battle. It's after midnight, and a brazen robbery is about to take place at this gas station. But it's not just one thief, or even two, out for a quick score. This is a mob of 25. Within seconds, they're looting the entire store. It's called a swarm robbery. And just like a swarm of insects, they ravage the landscape, consuming everything in their path. The mob is a spillover from a nearby party in Sacramento, California that was broken up by police after a fight got out of hand. With nowhere to go, and many of them full of alcohol and who knows what else, the gang ended up here. Their large numbers makes them feel invulnerable as they tear apart the store.
The concept of conducting a swarm robbery is based on that whole mentality of anonymity and there's not going to be consequences for their behavior.
They don't even try to hide their faces from security cameras. Most of them treat this like a little harmless fun. Individually, the thieves take only small ticket items from the shelves and coolers. A six-pack here, a candy bar there. One greedy thug even makes off with an entire rack of potato chips, while others rush back for more. Fortunately, the total loss caused by the criminal horde adds up to only $500. The clerk wisely decides it's not worth fighting back, because a mob that's this cavalier about stealing might not hesitate to turn violent. So the clerk instead helps the thieves out the door, contraband and all, locking it behind them.
In this case, the clerk did the appropriate thing. If they would have escalated it or taken action to try to stop it forcefully, of course, bad things happen at that point.
The entire robbery takes place in less than 1 minute. But the night has only begun for this criminal mob. Since this holdup seems so easy, the crew decides to continue their brazen crime spree.
They eventually went from there to another location here in the city of Sacramento, doing the same thing. And then a third location about 20 minutes later from that first initial start at 2:07 in the morning.
When police show up 30 seconds later, the mob has moved on to its next victim. But they've left behind a videotape that will soon air on a dozen local TV news stations.
We had approximately 25 to 30 crime alert tips that came in. Our detectives were able to follow up on those and eventually make 4 arrests in this case.
Those arrested were booked on counts of robbery instead of the lesser charge of shoplifting. In this case, justice was poetic. These thieves tried to mix in with the crowd, but they ended up smiling for the camera in front of tens of thousands of viewers on the nightly news. On a third-floor balcony of a public housing project in Washington, D.C., an elderly woman gasps for air. The empty apartment next door is on fire. The third arson-related blaze in 2 days at this building. With her home rapidly filling with smoke, the frail woman has fled to the only source of fresh oxygen. Washington Fire and Rescue personnel race to the scene. A 100-foot ladder reaches the balcony, and the woman's rescuer guides it into position. The firefighters will have to work fast. Not only is the blaze next door growing by the second, they're about to make a troubling discovery. The old woman is a diabetic, making her incredibly vulnerable. She's at a heightened risk for cardiac arrest, which could be easily triggered by the rapidly rising levels of carbon monoxide she's now breathing. With another rescuer in position, the firefighter on the balcony carefully lifts the weakened woman into his comrade's arms. Black smoke now fills the balcony as the firefighters next door spray water on the growing blaze. The woman's rescuers work frantically to give her starved lungs blasts of fresh oxygen from their tanks. As badly as they need to get her from the fire, the men must move her with great care. With all their gear, the smallest misstep could severely injure the fragile woman. Inch by inch, they lower her down the ladder, her arm clutching her rescuer's neck. When they get to the bottom, the entire team of firefighters pitches in. The tiny woman is gently passed from one rescuer to another. As she's carried to the ambulance, it's clear how desperate she must have been to flee the fire. She barely had time to dress, hastily throwing on 2 mismatched shoes. This woman is a lot tougher than she looks. She's still alert and aware of everything going on around her. And after she's been given more oxygen and taken to the hospital, she will make a full recovery. When arson threatens innocent lives, it's especially appalling. But this old woman couldn't have asked for a better, more battle-tested team to rescue her. Washington, D.C.'s Truck Company 4 was the first crew to respond to the Pentagon attack on September 11th. They were credited with saving dozens of lives that day. And with today's rescue, their reputation for heroism lives on. Los Angeles. When police tried to stop Thaddeus Carroll for a routine traffic violation, he panicked and ran. A bad choice that was made in an instant. By the time this news chopper caught up with him, Carroll had already struck another car, severely disabling his own in the process. Where his right front tire used to be, bare metal now grinds into the asphalt. A huge sparking plume shoots from his rim. He cuts a corner as closely as he can. For Thaddeus Carroll, precision steering is no longer an option. He's now behind the wheel of a lead sled, and any attempt to steer just a little produces a lot of fireworks. He must keep moving in as straight a line as possible. With his car slowly disintegrating, he knows that time is not on his side. So what does he do? He rashly accelerates. In more ways than one, Carroll is going downhill fast. When he sees a possible escape route up ahead, he impulsively turns right. By the time he decides to turn, it's already too late. He demolishes a low cinder block wall. LAPD officers spring from their cruisers, weapons drawn. Amazingly, Carroll is able to walk away from the accident and right into a pair of waiting handcuffs. Thaddeus Carroll began and ended his chase with bad decisions made in a split second. Fortunately for him, his car was also able to perform a split-second operation. At the moment of impact, both front airbags instantly deployed, saving his life. Carroll will now find himself in a place where all his crucial decisions are made for him. Jail. This is a manhole cover. This is a kitten with its head stuck in a manhole cover. And these are the men trying to save the kitten with its head stuck in a manhole cover. City workers were out doing routine maintenance on Chicago's west side when they came across this stray cat doing its best ostrich imitation. But after chasing a mouse into this hole, the feline learned that wiggling out from underneath a 180-pound sewer cap is a little more difficult than pulling your head out of the sand. Now it's up to these municipal men to save the little guy. Hoping it'll slide right out, the workers slather the cat in cooking oil. But the kitty lube job only succeeds in aggravating the animal. To rescue this victim, the men will have to wench loose the manhole cover. But the kitten's only hope may also mean its demise.
Right there. Just lift it.
To open the cap, the men have to force this pry bar into the same hole as the kitten's head.
You gotta lift it straight up.
One wrong move, and they could crush its skull. The steel bar is safely in the hole, but there's another problem. The frigid winter air has frozen the manhole shut, and it may have also sealed the feline's fate.
Hold on.
The kitten suddenly stops moving. No more scratching, no meowing, total silence. But as suddenly as it stopped moving, it starts up again. Now the kitten only has 8 lives left, and the men aren't about to sit back and let it lose another.
Good sledgehammer.
Since the pry bar isn't working, the rescuers send their colleague to find a better tool while they wait behind and keep the cat warm. Before long, the man returns with a small hatchet.
Take it off on that side? Take it off on the other side.
Just trying to...
With a quick slice, the worker breaks the frozen seal. Now there's just one move left to make.
All right.
Big cat.
I guess we got a lucky one, huh?
The kitten comes out swinging. If there was ever any doubt of whether or not it was alive, there's no question anymore.
It looks okay.
And now the men can say what's been on their minds the whole time.
Dumb cat.
But there's no hard feelings. In fact, the rescuers decide to adopt the stray kitten as their own.
Thanks, guys. You gonna take it?
But this cat was born on the streets, and to the streets it returns. Just minutes after this tape was shot, the kitten slipped from his rescuer's hands and disappeared into the night. Considering how much oil the men poured on, it was probably an easy escape.